Hey everybody, it's Gloria here, and welcome to Getting Real with Gloria, where my journey supports yours. I have a really special guest here with me today, David Vendetti, who is my original yoga guru, mentor, honestly, spiritual guide in many ways, originally. And especially to celebrate this really important month of Gay Pride, I really wanted David to come on and talk to us about sexuality and mental health, and also just like the different practices we can put into place to embrace who we really are and shine in the world in a way that is impossible unless we do that. So, David, welcome. I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
Okay, just trying to make it through the new season change with in Massachusetts now is the time where the weather gets a little warmer. And so we start to feel a little bit more outgoing, usually. Most of us do. So just kind of balancing that for myself coming out of that hibernation period. So it's a little, it's an adjustment period for myself right now.
hmm Yeah.
And how about you? How are things going? And tell us a little bit about sort of yourself and the things. I know I didn't even introduce you properly. David is a
No, no
phenomenal
worries.
yoga teacher, body worker. Just tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I mean, so first and foremost, I agree with what you're saying, which is like in winter we're kind of in this introverted state, and
Hmm.
especially in the last few years with the pandemic, it's been like a hyper insulated state in the winter. And so kind of breaking out of that and reintroducing yourself to social norms is kind of
Yeah.
wild. So I'm on the same page. Um, I am definitely a yoga teacher. I'm a yoga teacher for yoga teachers. I've led probably between 50 and 60 teacher trainings locally and also internationally. I'm a structural integrator, which is a form of body worker. And most recently, I am working through a diversity, equity, and inclusivity program to help corporations deal with tough to have conversations around race, racism, homophobia,
Mhm.
and toxic masculinity, all that kind of stuff. And like, how do we break down these dialogues without being offensive to anybody and
Mhm.
just saying, look, I'm going to make mistakes on the path to learning. Let's make the mistakes so that we can be better people, be a better community, be a better organization, be a better world. So um, that's a little bit about me. There's so much more, but
I know.
that's for sure.
But those are the big highlights. And tell me a little bit about sort of June is a really important month for you, for many of us. What does Gay Pride Month mean to you, and how are you celebrating, but also how are you reflecting this month?
Yeah, this is a really important question. So, I think there's a great meme. It's like gay pride is rainbows and celebrations, but that's not really at all what it is. I think anybody who's part of the LGBTQIA community, has spent a long time self-reflecting and also dealing with potential bullying or harassment or feeling like there's no place for you in your family or your belief system. And so gay pride is, a moment where we rise up against oppression and we say, I love my life. I love who I am. I love being here. I love my loves. And this is all amazing. The original gay pride was, of course, a riot mostly led by women, trans women of color at Stonewall. And what really hurts me right now is seeing that there's this kind of strange reintroduction of attack against the transgender community. And really, if you look, there's an amazing new documentary coming out. It's called The Stroll. And if you look at where the transgender kind of movement and beginnings were in New York City, it was really rough. It was really hard. And even in some countries to this day,
Mhm.
the police and the local people will flat out murder people who are trans. And we're lucky even in our country to have way more than that, but it's still not enough.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of outraged that there's been so much hatred towards a group of people that are literally just discovering who they authentically are
Mhm.
and standing in that truth and leading courageous, brave, beautiful, loving lives.
Mhm.
So gay pride is about all those things to me.
And how, so, actually, you just had a big sort of, I don't want to necessarily call it second coming out, but you did have a big reveal of yourself as a polyamorous person and living a polyamorous life and sharing that with the world in the beautiful way that you do. And what was that like for you? having, you came out as a gay man a long while ago. What was it like for you to have the second coming out, and was it different?
Yeah, actually, so I'm with three people, and everybody wants to know, like, oh, is it like open? There are open relationships, there are asexual relationships, there are intellectual relationships. There's
Mhm.
all sorts of different kinds of relationships. But I have two partners. We're in a closed relationship. I've been with my husband now for 9 years. And then we met Julian. We met our partner, my husband Brandon, and then we met our partner Julian 2 years ago. And it started just as like kind of a way of bonding and going out in nature during the pandemic. We would go every Friday on a hike or a walk or to the ocean. And over time, it just built into something where we each realized how supportive we could be for each other. And some of, like, Julian has been through some similar things that Brandon has been through, and he can really be an anchor for him in ways that I can't. I'm kind of a helicopter parent,
Mm.
and both of my boys are neurodivergent. And when you're neurodivergent, sometimes somebody that's over caretaking and wants to be all up in your business is actually the wrong thing to do. So I've
Mm.
learned so much about how to be a better partner for my husband
Mm.
through his attentiveness and support. It has been a second coming out.
Mm.
I think it was a little bit easier for me. I'm very, I'm very loud, and I'm very honest about what I'm going through. I like people to kind of see the journey, so that if they're going through a journey, they feel comfortable sharing theirs. But I think Brandon took a little longer to kind of really feel comfortable speaking to his family about it. And up until that time, it was it was more chaotic for us, right?
Mm.
Until he actually said to his parents, there's another person here. I know you're aware of them, but I just want to actually say it.
Mm.
He didn't really settle into his emotional stability.
Mm. And was this a decision you came to unanimously at the same time, or was there one of you who sort of felt like, you know, I never thought about necessarily being open to this, but now I'm seeing this new way of life and this feels more comfortable to me. Like who sort of made the first move in that direction, and what did it feel like internally, mentally, emotionally to realize that?
Yeah. Well, I think it'll probably come as no surprise to you that I am super loving and super open. I just love people. I love charisma. I love passion, intelligence, creativity. I love all of that. And I did run a huge community, and I've been part of huge communities for the last maybe 25 years. So during the pandemic, I actually felt very isolated, and it was really hard for me to stay feeling comfortable and supported in my home when it was just me by myself, and I was used to being surrounded by other people.
Yeah.
I've loved so many people. I was married for 10 years with the other owner of South Boston Yoga,
Yep.
and I just think sometimes we have our loves one and then it stops, and then
Yep.
another and then it stops. But
Yep.
sometimes we end up in love with two people simultaneously, and society tells us we need to leave one of them
Mm-hmm.
when maybe we don't have to at all. We can
Mm-hmm.
just say, I love two people. Like we have large families. We love all of our family. We love, if you have tons of children, you're not like, oh, I only love one of my children.
Right.
You know. So I think I was first for sure. Um, Julian has, a background where he always thought he was going to be by himself, and like he loves working from home. He loves taking walks by himself, and this was just a very new idea for him to even think that maybe there were going to be some partners, a partner or multiple partners. And then Brandon and I had been talking about it for years, because sometimes both of us travel for work,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want him to be supported wherever he goes in the world. So if I can't be there, I'd love for him to have a good friend, a dear friend, a best friend, or somebody who really cares about him and knows him on a deep level to support him when he's in New York, or if he's in Paris, or doing hair or makeup in one of those places. So I'd been talking to him about the fact that that's great for me, and if he needs that or wants that, then I'm very open to it. It took us about 6 years.
Wow. And what's sort of, you just brought to mind a thought that I had, which was, what is the difference between just friendship, like you said, he could go to Paris, let's say, and have a friend there versus going to Paris and having another partner there. What is the difference, do you feel like, between those two roles that people can play for each other? And why is it important that it's a partner versus why just not a friend? Because there is a
Yeah, sure.
difference, you know.
So I think we all know that feeling when you have like a really, really good friend who's like your friend for life. They're
Mm-hmm.
your ride or die. You like can finish each other's sentences, and that feels so good and authentic.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the same is true for a romantic partner or somebody that you're going to spend your whole life with. You want that best friend kind of feeling. But I'm a very touch-oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, there's multiple different kinds, and we could get into it, but there's multiple different blueprints for sexuality and intimacy,
Yeah.
anywhere from asexual to like, just super, super sexual, multiple partners. So there's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I feel the most comfort and support when somebody is like in physical contact with me. Even if they just like kind of have their hand like over my shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
I can exhale.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be the same for everyone, but having that ability to be fully vulnerable, fully
Mm-hmm.
exposed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
truly intimately connected to another person can be so satisfying and life affirming, validating.
Yeah, there is a difference with that when you bring that element of sexuality, which doesn't necessarily happen with friendship unless you're moving from like friends to something else. But in friendship, you sort of, that's where the line is. So to have that, it does feel very special. It is another layer of depth that we as humans need to experience, and most like, well, I shouldn't say need to experience. We as humans are designed to experience should we want to. And
Right.
so it's, it is special to be able to have that. And so I can see why somebody would feel, well, how wonderful to have two people that I really love, that I can share this with, that I can have this connection with. And like you said, if you are traveling and you having that distance, that can be really hard on mental health as well. So how has, embracing your polyamorous lifestyle, how has it improved your mental health? And could you talk about like what it was like for you before you made the decision versus when you finally said, this is me, this is us, hey world?
Yeah. Um,
I know
there's a
there's a
lot
lot
there.
there to unpack, I'm sure.
There's some things that I feel comfortable talking about because they're my personal things, and there's some things that are my partners that I don't feel as comfortable, kind
Of
of
course,
discussing
of course.
because we do have a neurodivergent household. And what that means is that somebody could be, there's something called schizoid, which is like a slightly solitary kind of lifestyle. You've got your borderline, your bipolar, you've got, all these different kind of clinical things that put you on the neurodivergent scale, things like mild autism.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would let them kind of talk about those things if you were interviewing them.
Yep.
But for me, what's been really important is the realization that sometimes, of course, one person can't do everything for you. And sometimes even the person you love the most in the world can't give you one piece of your life that you really need to feel complete. It could be as simple as somebody to play tennis with,
Mm-hmm.
right? It could be somebody who wants to have a philosophical discussion with you, and your partner doesn't want to have philosophical discussions, or, you get it,
Yeah.
all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So my mental health during the pandemic, and actually for much of our relationship, I just felt conflicted. I felt like there was something missing. I didn't feel grounded or stable. And it was immediate. Like as soon as we kind of entered into this agreement that Julian was going to be a part of our lives, I just breathed a sigh of relief. I felt like, oh,
Mm.
okay, now I feel truly supported.
And why do you think that our sexuality and our sexual orientation even is so tied to mental health? I know there's like science reasons we could go into that, but why do you think it is?
You had mentioned this the other day. I thought about it a lot. There's nothing more strenuous on your mental health than knowing that you're part of a minority group that is in general oppressed and bullied by society. That's incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
So people who are slightly different in terms of sex and sexuality, sexual orientation, they really feel the peer pressure, societal pressure, spiritual or religious pressure, depending on what state or country you live in. There could be like laws against who you are.
Yeah.
And that's a huge strain on your mental health. I find that really anchoring yourself into your way of enjoying expression, your physical body, your way of communicating, connecting to other people is like, it's the best thing ever. It's the best sensation. It's like when you know that you're doing what's right for you, everything feels really, really good. And it feels non-contradictory.
Yeah.
When you're not honest about who you are, when you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, when you don't know how to express yourself to other people and connect, you feel isolated, depressed, anxious, nervous, alienated, without a community. And so I think that's why it's so tied in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I do think this month is, for everybody, regardless of how you identify, it's a good month to reflect on that, to reflect on the how honest we're being with ourselves about who we are, and it's always a good time to reevaluate and reinvestigate that and to make sure that you are living your truth and you are supported so that you can live your truth. Because I do agree with you that support is a huge sort of catalyst towards self-discovery. Without that, it becomes so much harder when we feel like we're an island or we feel like we're alone. And so I love that you did that. For me, actually, a long time ago in your yoga community, you created this space where I really felt a sense of not acceptance, because we don't need acceptance, but appreciation for who we are
Yeah.
as people, as beings, not even as like who we walked into the yoga studio as, but who we were on the inside. You really encouraged people to bring that to the table, to let that shine. And that was something I really appreciated. And I got a lot out of. And that actually was one of the big things that, started me on my journey with my own trauma and ups and downs and things like that. But, I think that that's something yoga in particular also brings to the table. How do you feel like yoga, I mean, everybody knows what yoga benefits are for the mental health, and everything like that. But what particularly about yoga for anybody who is struggling to find who they are, what's the beauty of yoga for them?
Well, let me take it back a step and then I'll move it forward.
Love
So
it.
the first thing is, I think uh, everybody feels different. You don't have to be gay or bi or gender fluid or trans to feel slightly different. Every single person feels different. And this idea we have in society that you need to be normal, like I can just literally look one step to my left or one step to my right into my family to see that there's no normal, right? Like if you just look at whoever's closest to you, you're going to be like, wow, you do not fit that definition. Like, people will collect salt and pepper shakers and have thousands of salt and pepper shakers. Some people will have only parakeets in their household. Other people will only wear things that are bedazzled. Like everybody has something that's a little bit peculiar about them, what they eat, what they do. And so this whole idea that we're supposed to fit a norm is just absolute garbage. It's just total baloney. Everybody is unique and odd and cool and fascinating. Your second point about yoga being a way of self-acceptance, I almost wish that yoga was taught with a blindfold.
Mm.
So that there wasn't the possibility to see yourself in a mirror or see the teacher or see the other students and make a comparison. Because I find that every human body, every age, every expression of gender, every sexuality is absolutely phenomenal. And I think part of what yoga does is it gives you a safe container in which you can explore your body and test how you respond to different stimulus. So, how do you respond when you're out of balance? How do you respond when you're out of breath? How do you respond when something completely weird and different and unknown is coming at you? How do you respond when you're physically exhausted, right? What is your strength level? What is your focus ability? And when you put yourself through those different circumstances, not to mention you're simultaneously wringing out the tension in your body, you end up resilient at the end of the practice. And then whatever comes after your yoga class, is probably not going to be as emotionally or physically challenging as what you intentionally put yourself through. So everything becomes easier because of the challenge of the class, of the practice.
I definitely felt that, especially with the strength aspect, because I didn't realize how strong I was physically. Because I'd always been in partnerships with people who were much more physically stronger than I was. So, and I
Mm.
was always tiny. So, I was always sort of given this identity of like, oh, you're small and cute. And so that's what your role is. It's not strong and powerful. It's tiny and cute and timid. So being in those classes with you and with Todd and doing some of those really challenging poses, and not that yoga is all about the crazy poses, but we worked up to some of those, bigger ones. And I remember like the first time you helped me into a handstand, it just having the different perspectives of your body as well, like being in that upside down position the first time you gave me the gift of flight, it was like, oh my God, this is a whole different way for me to see the world, to see my body, to feel in my body. And so it really gave me so much freedom when I walked out of that class. Like you said, nothing felt as hard. And I also felt a lot more connected to my body, which for me was very challenging, especially coming from, a background of so much trauma and grief, you don't want to be in your body after a while. Same thing for those who don't feel comfortable expressing themselves. You don't want to be in your body because it feels uncomfortable. So having that experience was really profound. And so I do encourage anyone who's never tried yoga before, go to a supportive place, of course, but I do
Yeah.
encourage you to try it at least once and, and give it a shot. What's something that you still struggle with right now in terms of, whether that's in your lifestyle or in your identity or in your mental health? Like, what's something you still struggle with, and how do the people around you support you in that?
Hmm. You know, I think on a very superficial level, I struggle with making healthy food.
Hey, that's
I've always
something.
been somebody that's go, go, go and very busy. And so for me, like taking the time, making a healthy meal, nourishing my body, I think that every day, honestly, in two different ways, if you're partnered, but every day is a struggle, right? Every day is a struggle with the voices in your own head, with your past conditioning.
Yeah.
And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for getting up, eating food, taking a shower, right? If I get up, I eat food, and I take a shower, I won. Anything else is extra on top of that. Um, if you're with a partner, if you're partnered, or if you have, I mean, we all have relationships with so many people at work or family, there's going to be a challenge of interaction. There's going to be a struggle with how do we continue to evolve? And that's why I'm doing this diversity, equity, and inclusion work right now, because so many of us are interested in being right
Mm-hmm.
instead of seeing another person and asking more about them. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to fight, right? I don't want to fight because if you're angry at me, you want me to be angry back to justify your anger. I don't want to fight. I see that you're angry. I know what it feels like to be angry. Tell me more about how you're feeling. In that moment, I'm more interested in the person than I am in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could do that as a society, we could change everything.
Yeah. Because the way that we see the world is essentially everything that then our actions and our behavior and our thoughts all come from how we see the world. And so if we are in a state where we are angry or we are using past conditioning to make that decision, it's a lot harder to make change. It's a lot harder to then be heard, or to be in your truth because you're operating out of sort of an automatic response. So I love
Yes.
that you're working with people to say, hey, how can we move through the emotion to get to the other side so that we're actually hearing each other and we're actually making a difference? And what's
Yeah.
something that, anyone who right now is maybe struggling with their identity or struggling with, they know that they don't necessarily want to fit into the box that they've been told, but they don't necessarily know that where they're going or what are the other options. How can people start in that journey? What's the starting point for them? Or, and I know it's like very specific, but in general, like where's a great place to start?
Mm. So I don't remember exactly, but there's that woman that wrote the book, The Art of Tidying Up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Do you know? I feel like her name is Amy, maybe.
I do not know
Um,
her name at all, but
but she wrote the book, The Art of Tidying Up. And the whole idea is that you pick up something and you look at it. And if it doesn't bring you joy, Out it goes,
Marie Kondo.
right? What is it?
I think it's Marie. Well, I think Marie Kondo. I
Yes,
don't
yes.
really, yeah, yeah, right?
Marie Kondo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So I would do the same thing with your thoughts, right? If
Mm,
you're having a
love that.
thought and it's like you're not good enough, you can say, does that thought feel great to me? It doesn't. I'm going to toss that out and get rid of it. Does this plant or this job or this circumstance? Now I understand not all of us can change our jobs, right? We need to have money. We need to have income to support ourselves.
Yeah.
However, the best thing to do is just to know that A, you're not alone, that there are so many resources and so many other people that have gone through these kinds of things. And, that whole thing where they say it gets better. Sometimes it gets better, sometimes it gets worse, then it gets better again. But there is a community, a chosen family out there that is vibrant and fantastic. I almost cry every day with gratitude for what I have. The ability to love two people as much as I previously had loved one person, to have that doubled is so, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it's like so unbelievable, heartwarming. I just feel no matter which direction I turn, I'm supported. And sometimes when I'm busy, I get to watch the two people that I care about the most be cared for when I can't be there. And I'll like come home and they're like both on their phones, like playing video games on the couch. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so cute. So to someone that's looking, to someone that's searching, keep looking, really find who you are, because to live as your authentic self is such a gift. And to live oppressed by other people's beliefs and thoughts that's no way to live at all, right? Find a place, find a community that supports you, find books, find movies, and go with that.
Is there any book or movie actually that you really like for people who are, on that journey of self-discovery, or for people who want to support the loved ones in their life that are going through transitions and evolution of themselves?
Yeah, there's so many. We're so lucky right now. There's so many TV shows that are like adorable. There's a show Heartstopper that is so cute. If you want something more informative, Elliot Page, at the time was Ellen Page, but is now Elliot Page, did something called Gaycation, where they traveled around the world and they interviewed different cultures to see how different cultures responded to sexual orientation and fluidity. And it's A, hard to watch, but B, very insightful. I love the show We Are Here. It's about drag queens. And all of you know that like people have been pointing at drag shows and being like, rah, it's so terrible. But I think that's a case of look over there, right? Like, look at your own life.
Yeah.
Fix your own life. Drag queens are just covered in glitter and they're singing to Whitney Houston. It's fine. Your kid does that every day anyway. They cover themselves in glitter and they grab a hairbrush and they sing after they, put their pajamas on or whatever. It's not a threat. It's not hard to deal with. So the show We Are Here is 3 phenomenal drag queens that go to small towns around the United States, and they choose a couple people to put into a drag show.
Oh,
and
cool.
These are people that have either been ostracized, haven't found their place in the world, are struggling with depression. One of them was a parent who had kicked out her daughter for being gay. And to watch them work through this and to realize that they can get up in front of a whole bunch of people and dress amazing and perform and have the whole crowd, a whole audience cheer for them. Maybe you've never had anybody cheer for you in your entire life. What a cool moment for you to have and put in your back pocket. So I highly recommend Gaycation, We Are Here, Heartstopper. There's kind of an old thing called the Transgender Revolution with Katie Couric and National Geographic. And it talks about the chemistry of the brain and how everybody is on a spectrum. Like, for example, there's 330 million people in the United States, okay? And 23 million of them identify as some part of the queer community, LGBTQIA. right? Of those, 4 million are intersex. Intersex means that you're born neither male nor female. You've got the both genitalia are present. 4 million people. And what used to happen back in the day is the doctor would decide what genitalia you should have based on the size, right? If one was bigger than the other, they would just make you into that. And sometimes they didn't even tell your parents.
Wow.
And then when you hit teenage years, if for some reason you were misgendered, you had all the chemicals that would take you in the wrong direction. There would be suffering, suicide, depression, anxiety, because your body was literally chemically different than what you'd been told your whole life. And I think it's worthwhile to understand that everything is on a spectrum, right? We all know people who are tall and people who are short, people with brown eyes and people who are blue eyes, people with big boobs and people with no boobs, right? It only makes sense that genitalia, sexual expression, sexual orientation also comes on this incredibly widespread spectrum.
Yeah, especially when we have a lot of hormones that move through our body, and those are not the same exact doses for every single person that's moving on a chemical level. Like that would be impossible to have that be exactly the same. So yeah, that doesn't make sense that would be on a spectrum like that.
Well, and the thing about this program, the National Geographic one, is what they found is when somebody says, I am transgender, if you do a brain scan and you look at the chemistry in their brain, the chemical components of their body will actually tell you what gender they truly are.
Wow.
It's the chemistry of the body. It's not the outward appearance, which should make sense. We should be like, oh, that makes sense. It's not the outward appearance. It's actually the chemical makeup of your body. And sometimes people will need like some kind of hormone stuff as well. But I urge everybody just to research it, not because you want to have fuel to fight an argument, but research it because you need it, because you're part of that community. That's one thing I've never really understood. If other people want to eat pistachio ice cream and you want to eat Oreo cookie ice cream, great, right? Let people be themselves, because when you're yourself, you feel your best. So let other people be themselves so that they can feel their best.
Yeah, we have better relationships that way. We have better ideas, more creativity in the world, more problem solving. Yeah, it's overall a better, we have a better world. Talk a little about, I know this is something you're really excited about, this event that's coming up, your drag show yoga class. Talk about this, and also talk to me a little bit about what, like, I know that I have, I've watched some drag, and I know people who do drag, but I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is, who does it, why they do it, what is it that you're getting out of that, and like what's the experience like? Not because, because hey, there's a lot of work to put all that on, and Brandon does some gorgeous makeup. I mean, just gorgeous. It's an art form, really. But yeah, talk to me about that.
We have to start at the very beginning. We have to start with like one of the forerunners of drag, which would be RuPaul Charles, right? And what what they say is you're born naked and the rest is drag. And what that means is we all put on an outfit, right? Like right now I'm in casual interview drag, but some people are going to be wearing corporate America drag. Other people are going to be wearing sports enthusiast drag. Some people will be wearing I'm very sexy drag, right? You look at your friend, you're like, oh God, you dress sexy every day. They're in sexy drag. Drag is the outfit that you put on, right? So everybody's in drag. Let's just start there.
Great place to start.
And then what's amazing about it is it gives you the opportunity to step into a different role. Right? Like we've been mentioning, there are plenty of people that feel disempowered, like they're not their best self, like they're not seen, like their voices aren't heard. But if you put on some kind of glamazon outfit, I don't know, maybe you're going to be like an alternative rock drag, or maybe you're going to be like a Dolly Parton drag. Whatever it is, it gives you a chance to not be in your same mental cycle. You step into this new self, into this new outfit, into this new role, and you have a phenomenal time. And people cheer for you. And that's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
We all know what it's like to be wearing something and have someone say, ooh, you look amazing, right? That's the energy of drag. And I would say to people that are intimidated by it, once you do it, you realize it's no different than dressing up for a fancy party. right? It's no different than dressing up for a masquerade ball. It's no different than dressing up for Halloween. We know how fun Halloween can be. Some people get super into it.
Yep.
That's what drag is. It's no big deal. It's like being an actor or an actress for a moment.
Awesome.
And oh, so I guess I should mention the event. So
Yes.
we're doing a drag yoga event for Gay Pride. And basically it's just so that people have an excuse to dress up and, have fun. We do it outside in this large courtyard at this yoga studio called the Love Offensive. It's a free event. It's from 10 to 11 next weekend. So I think that would be like Saturday the 17th.
17th would be a Saturday. Yep, 17th. And I'll put the link to that in the description for this video as well, along with David's website and any of his yoga classes too. So you'll have all of that if you're watching this video for the dates upcoming. So that's very exciting. And now, is drag only for those who identify as men or those who identify as gay men? What are the rules about this?
Everybody.
Everybody. Okay, awesome.
It's for everybody. I'll be dressed up. I think I'm going to dress in kind of like goth drag, and my husband's going to dress more in like Barbie cheerleader drag. And then his friend is dressing in drag king drag. She's a drag king. But you could just come and wear like your favorite outfit or like some club gear, or, you could just have a flag attached to your earring or whatever it is. Like you could just come and have a good time. Pride is about celebrating. It's about celebrating our differences. It's about celebrating our family. It's about celebrating our community. And what you said is true. You don't want to tell somebody that you tolerate queerness, right? Or that you accept queerness. I don't accept queerness. I am excited by it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I celebrate it. I cherish it. And I want everybody to feel how amazing it is.
Awesome. That sounds so fun. If I were near Rhode Island, I would totally come. But if you're near Rhode Island, or if you are driving through for whatever reason, stop by. It will be, and I've taken many classes with David over the years. It will be a blast just because he's teaching it. But then with this other element, you will have an amazing time. Is there anything else that you feel like you are passionate about that you want to say today that you feel like people need to hear? I'd love to just kind of leave it off on that.
Yeah, there's two takeaways that I've been kind of discussing in the last few weeks that can make your whole life better. Mm-hmm. And those two takeaways are, when you're arguing with somebody, change it to a discussion. Mm-hmm. And you change it to a discussion by not being reactive, but being responsive. Mm-hmm. So like if you were to call me a name, right? If you were to call me a name and I called you a name back, then we would fight. Mm-hmm. But if you call me a name and instead of being reactive, I'm responsive and I say, I noticed that you felt like you wanted to call me some kind of name or label me as something. I'm not sure what that's about. Can you tell me more about how you're feeling? Mm-hmm. In that moment, I'm staying in my power, right? When I become reactive and I aggressively respond to somebody, I've lost my power. I've lost my balance. But when I'm responsive and I say, I'm so sorry you feel that way. You must be having a really hard day. You must be tired, overworked. You must have been brought up in a family that rejects differences. Mm-hmm. I know what that can be like. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit more? So that's responsiveness. That's one. The second thing is to be more interested in a human connection than to be right. I don't need to be right. I need to understand the other person. I want to dig into who they are. I want to develop a relationship. I have friends that are from all different spiritualities, all different religions. I have friends who will vote Republican and who will vote, and Democrat. They'll vote. Of course they will. It's a complicated world. I love all my friends. And I don't ever want them to feel anything from me except for the fact that I love them. And I know that none of these choices are easy. And as long as we can understand each other and know that truly in our best selves, we're supporting each other, like that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So those two things, responsiveness instead of reactivity, and being more interested in the person in front of you than in your own need to be right or to fight.
Yep. And
that's how we change it.
Yeah. And both those things really emphasize love, which is like why we're all here, right? So we only make our love stronger than when we do those things. I love those takeaways. Those are awesome. Well, thank you so much, David. It was such a pleasure having you. How can people connect with you if they want to stay in touch or they want to come to events and all that
Hmm.
jazz?
I'm on both Instagram and Facebook. I also have a website. My website is davidvendetti.com. And I teach classes all over Providence right now. I'm also doing some workshops coming up. And you can find most of those things on my website or on my Instagram page. So that's the easiest way. Oh, and I also just joined my friend Daniel Lucio's meditation community. It's called, I want to say it's called Spirit U. And I'm a mentor, a life coach on that site, and I'll be releasing some yoga videos there. But his program is for people that are interested in mindfulness and meditation.
Awesome.
Also, I'm working with the Wayside Center for Youth and Family. That's the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that I'm doing. And we go to different companies and corporations who are interested in having the courageous conversations that will lead them forward to creating more inclusive, harmonious, productive, phenomenal communities. So if anybody is interested in that kind of work, please reach out.
Yeah, we will definitely put all those links in the description for the video. So definitely head on over to whatever strikes your fancy. Thanks so much, David. I appreciate you taking the time. And
Thank you, Gloria.
I'll see you all here at Getting Real with Gloria another time. Bye, everybody.
Great to see you.